This is Deborah Kitco, genealogy librarian with the Wayne County Public Library. Are you sort of getting stir crazy, cabin fever, where you just don't know what to do anymore? You get tired of being inside? You know, just waiting for nicer weather to come so you can actually get outside a little more often? Well, now is a good time, as good a time as ever, to actually begin grabbing a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, or just logging onto your laptop and actually begin writing down some of the stories. These could be some family stories handed down from your parents or from your grandparents or from your great-grandparents, or it could be stories that you have of your own life or of your kids or of your grandkids. If you don't record these memories, those memories are going to be lost with time. One story, now when you are talking about family stories, especially those that have been handed down from generation to generation, you want to make sure that you verify that information, or either verify or actually disprove the information. My grandmother, now she was the youngest of 20 kids, and those of you that have attended some of my classes, I've talked a little bit about her and with the Reed family. And I'm going to just give a brief overview today about a family story handed down, and then look at some discrepancies within that family story. And then at a later date, we're going to take a closer look and do a case study involving this family. Now, Grandma, like I said, was the youngest of 20 kids, and she was born in 1924, and she remembers a story about her grandfather. This would be on Orson, this would be on her dad's side, Orson Reed. He died in 1938, so my grandmother was 14 years old whenever he passed away. But my grandmother remembers hearing the story growing up that Orson was an only child. He was pretty much born, raised, and died in Washington County, Ohio. And at a young age, he went to live with his grandparents for a little while because his mom had died at a young age. Now, I'd have no reason to doubt my grandmother's story. You know, she's been pretty right on with a lot of the other family information. However, with any family story you hear, you want to make sure that you verify it, because a lot of times, over time, things have changed, or they have remembered the story a little bit differently, etc. Now, my grandmother was the only one who remembered this count of the story, so other of her cousins do not remember this count whatsoever. This is just something that my grandmother had told me about her grandfather being only a child. Now, with him being born, according to his death certificate in 1938, he was born about 1840, so I'd want to look at the census records. So the most obvious one would be in the 1850 census. That would be the first census that he would be listed in. And taking a look at the household, we know that his parents were Robert and Mary Lucinda Barnes Reed. And so I originally started out looking for Orson in Washington County, Ohio, being about, 10 years, give or take a few years. And I didn't have much success finding him in Washington County, Ohio. I broadened my search and actually found a family living in Seneca Township in Monroe County, Ohio, which is not too far from Washington County, Ohio. But when I pulled up the 1850 census, I was surprised to find out that Orson was indeed not an only child. In the 1850 census, now this census was enumerated on September 28th in 1850, Robert Reed was the father, or the inferred father, and Lucinda, age 28, was the inferred mom. And there we have several kids listed. We have a Royal O. Reed, who's age 11, and Morris O. Reed, age 9, and then we have Orson S. Reed. He's listed as age 7, meaning that he was born about 1843, which is a discrepancy from the 1840 date given in his death certificate. But that's a story for another time. We also find 3 other children living within this household. We find a Francis M. Reed, a Prudence J. Reed, and a Philo C. Reed. So if this is indeed the right family, Orson was not an only child. He had at least 3 older siblings, and with this census, at least 3 younger siblings. So you want to try to begin doing a little more digging. And now Monroe County is one of those burnt counties, so a lot of the records do not exist. However, we do have a book in our collection here that covers some of the newspaper abstracts from Monroe County. And in one of the entries from a newspaper, I think it was the Spirit of Democracy down in Monroe County, on November 15th, 1854, it indicates that Mrs. Lucinda Reed, consort of Mr. Robert Reed of Seneca Township, died on Saturday, October 21st, 1854. So if at this point, if Orson was born about 1843, he's about 10, 11 years old at the time that his mom passed away. Now, there is a good possibility that he may have went to live with his grandparents for a short time. I have not been able to verify that part of the story. But we do see then less than a year later, that Robert Reed, this would be Orson's father, actually marries a Maria Reynolds on April 4th, 1855. And this was in a newspaper article dated April 11th, 1855, sorry about that. So, and then in the 1860 census, we find Robert and we find Maria. And then we still have Royal and we have Orson. We have, at this point, instead of Morris, it's listed as Horace. We have Francis and Prudence and Lavina. And now we have 4 more kids. So Lucius, Andrew, William, and Lydia, aging from ages from 5 months up to about 9 years. So we'll see here that not only did Orson have additional full-blooded siblings, but he also had some half-siblings that came later on that were much younger than him. And you look, even 10 years later in the 1870 census, you'll see that there's a couple other kids that's listed. There's a Sophronia Reed, who's age 8, a James Reed, age 6, a Purnell D. Reed, age 3, and then a George Reed, who's age 11 months. So by doing the actual research, we have discovered that unknowingly, my grandmother had probably remembered the story wrong. She'd overheard something. We have actually disproved the information that Orson was an only child. And we did prove, though, that, his mom died when he was at a young age, if you consider 10 or 11 years old as being a young age. And that his father had remarried and had another family. And this family actually later moved to Tyler County, West Virginia. And a lot of the descendants reside down over in that area. So, when you're actually, during this time when you're actually writing down your stories, go ahead and write them down as you recall. There's nothing wrong with that. And just actually make a notation of when you have recorded the story or when you've written it down so people will know. And then go ahead and take the next step and actually begin trying to research and try to verify to see if you're remembering the information correctly. So at least for now, this may be a good way to pass your days while you're homebound, so to speak. So hopefully this has helped. And once again, I will actually be having a program later looking more specifically at Orson Reed and trying to resolve some of these conflicts that we have discovered with his family history. So for now, happy hunting, and don't forget to write. And don't forget to subscribe. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel here for the library, go ahead and do so. So until next time, I'll talk to you later. Stay well.